The most important thing that I can do is to seed ideas into the discourse. And the best possible outcome for my ideas is that other people steal them without attribution. That sounds weird, but the reason is because if other people think that they thought of those ideas, they'll believe them more.
Does that happen?
All the time.
Is there anything about it that frustrates you that you think traditional media can do better?
So I am on the opinion side of things, and I think that the entire way that a traditional media conceives of the opinion section is fundamentally limiting and broken.
What is going to happen with AI in terms of jobs?
We don't know. And anyone who pretends to know is pulling your leg, including Darren Acemoglu, the #1 economist in the world who just won a Nobel Prize.
What is valuable to you about Twitter in terms of your work?
Well, very little anymore. That platform is becoming less and less useful. It used to be the assignment desk for the entire media. What was said on Twitter was what was important in America. And that is no longer true.
Are you making more money now doing a Substack versus being at Bloomberg?
Oh yeah, like almost 10 times as much.
Okay, cool. 10x.
Yeah,
let's go ahead. It's a media success story. So I don't generally introduce folks on stage because I expect you all know who they are. That may not be the case with you, and I don't mean offense by that. I hope you'll forgive me.
I love it. I'm sad of the, he needs no introduction, because I probably do.
Yeah, I think you do, if that's okay. But basically, if you aren't familiar with Noah Smith, I would say this. He is, I think, one of the most influential commentators on economics and policy in the country. He runs a Substack called Noahpinion with about 400,000 subscribers. I checked, it's #2 in the business Substack category, just behind Lenny, yeah. So you'll get Lenny soon enough, I'm sure.
No.
Yeah, he may have a lot.
Lenny's the best.
Yeah, Lenny's great. Also, you were a Bloomberg columnist for many years. You have an economics PhD. You studied physics at Stanford. So, you've been around the realms of academia and media. And what I want to talk about first is why leave what I thought was a pretty cushy, influential perch at Bloomberg as a columnist to start a Substack?
Oh, well, there's a couple reasons. First of all, I started the Substack well before I left Bloomberg, and it was just my old blog, which I had always maintained and kept posting on. Right. I just transferred over to Substack.
But to go full time,
why go full time?
Yes.
And there's actually a couple of reasons. One is, Bloomberg got a little bit worse in terms of they required a lot more layers of pitch approval before they published anything, so you couldn't get anything out in a timely fashion, and that made what I was writing just much less timely and relevant. I just wanted to be able to hit publish, comment on what just happened, And then with Bloomberg, it would be a week at least before you could comment on a breaking event as an opinion writer. So I was like, okay, well, that's reduced my relevance. Another thing is that, I got chronic migraine, so I couldn't look at a screen too much. So then I had a health issue where basically, if I looked at a screen more than 4 hours a day, I'd start to get really dizzy.
Is that different running a Substack?
No, but I had to choose.
Okay.
I couldn't.
I understand.
And I had to choose between my hobby and my job, so I decided to keep the hobby.
I understand.
And so, anyway.
Yeah, that makes medical sense. I get it now. Okay, here's a follow-on question. Because you were also, as far as I'm aware, if I'm not mistaken, offered the job that basically Paul Krugman had at the New York Times. You were not?
I was not. I was offered an opinion contributing position. So I would have been an op-ed contributor, and they mentioned the fact that they were looking for someone to replace Krugman, and basically I think the idea was to hire a number of these op-ed contributors and then eventually hire one of those people to be Krugman's replacement.
A Krugman would emerge.
But yes, a Krugman would emerge. I think that's the idea.
Okay, but still, running a Substack better than being an op-ed contributor at the New York Times, in your view?
Definitely. Or also better than actually having Krugman's position. Had that actually been offered, I would have also said no to that.
Outside of the medical considerations and the...
which are now better, by the way.
I'm very happy for you. I'm sorry I didn't ask.
Oh, yeah.
But also... outside of just the editing piece of it, which I understand is significant in terms of your workflow and your preferred process of writing, what do you think your influence is doing what you're doing now versus what it was at Bloomberg or what it could have been at the New York Times in terms of what you're trying to do, if there is anything you're trying to do in terms of influence?
So, I mean, I think it's pretty similar, honestly. I think that, you know, if I paywalled most of what I write, I could maybe make a little more money, but I think I would be less widely read. So I paywall only 1 out of 3 things. And actually, I'm behind right now. I'm paywalling even less than that because I don't like paywalling things. And so I think that lots of people read this stuff, but you know, it's more than it was at Bloomberg, significantly more. So I think at Bloomberg, typically a post would get about 40,000 unique hits. Now it's got to be, you know, 4 times that.
Wow.
And so I think New York Times would be more. New York Times would be more. Probably more influential just because people have a thing about the New York Times. They think it's important.
Yep.
You know, Ezra Klein. I don't know why. You know, there's a Bee Gees song about this. Like, you know.
Get out of here.
There is. It's Saturday Night Fever.
Oh,
We can try to understand the New York Times effect on man. And when I heard that, I was like, what? A newspaper? And now I get it. Like, I don't understand why people think the New York Times specifically is such an important entity, because it's, you know, it's sometimes good and sometimes not good, but there's lots of other good stuff out there. And I just, you know, but it is. I guess it's because the finance industry is in New York and they read the New York Times. I don't know why.
They seem to only be getting stronger as
yeah,
a business and in terms of influence.
My friend Wally has a thing. Whenever he sees anyone declaring on Twitter that they're unsubscribing from the New York Times, he buys like some amount of New York Times stock.
Yeah.
And he has beat the S&P with this investment strategy.
That's it? Just investing in the Times?
Well, I mean, he does other stuff too,
but
with this specific strategy has outperformed the S&P, because the more people say, like, I hate the New York Times, I'm unsubscribing, the more important it gets.
I love a media stock tip. That's not what I didn't have that on my bingo card.
Everybody, yeah. So this is not financial advice.
Yeah.
But.
So the stock tip totally distracted me from my next question. But I do think what I want to make sure I get across to the audience is what a Noahpinion article is. You know, so if I were to describe it at I don't know, like a happy hour at the media summit or something to somebody in this audience, how would you describe it?
What the article is?
What Noahpinion is?
Oh, it's a blog that's mostly about economics and economics-related stuff, but then, you know, also about just a whole bunch of other topics that I sprinkle in there. You know, one time I did a list of my favorite science fiction novels.
Yes, and Werner Ringe was on there. I remember that. I'm also a science fiction guy.
He's my favorite.
Yeah, he's
really
the
great.
best. Brad DeLong too, also a fan.
Yes.
Okay, so
yeah, I can write about anything I want, and writing for the New York Times, you can't just decide to say your favorite science fiction novels. Now Krugman used to be able to do that when he had his blog, and then they canceled the blog, and he could no longer do that, and he had to just write this one column a week, and you know, like no links, maybe one chart, usually no charts, and so the format was so incredibly constricting on what he could write that he got fed up and quit. Krugman quit to do Substack. He quit New York Times to do Substack for free. You know, he doesn't charge anyone a dime for that. Yeah. And so, like, I mean, you know, he has plenty of money, but then, and he's not motivated by that. But then, like, it was so constraining that he was so frustrated at his ability to say what he wanted to say. Substack, you can just say what you want to say, press, publish. That's it.
Had you attempted anything like that prior to Substack? I mean, I know you had a blog.
I blogged, yeah.
Yeah.
For 10 years.
But you were also, as far as I can tell, not able to do that full time, perhaps economically, perhaps for other reasons.
Well, that's right. I never thought about doing it as a job. Until Substack came along, I never thought about actually, you know, making money off blogging.
Yeah. Was it really that transformative in terms of that platform allowing people like you to consistently and predictably make a real living?
I could have definitely hacked a newsletter website together very easily. I could have, you know, because Stratechery is an example of that. Ben Thompson. In fact, Substack imitated the old format of Ben Thompson's newsletter. For, you know, and yeah, and so he did that, and I think Andrew Sullivan did that, and I think some other people did that. So and you know, there's other platforms like Ghost, you know, that were, I think, probably predate Substack. Yeah. And then so it wasn't that, you know, I hadn't thought to do it because I didn't think, wow, I need more money. But then, you know, once I made the switch to Substack and doing that, it sort of made money on its own. But yeah, so then I just wasn't that money motivated, honestly.
This is a semi-personal question, but are you making more money now doing a Substack versus being at Bloomberg?
Oh yeah, like almost 10 times as much.
Okay, cool. 10x.
Yeah.
Let's go ahead. It's a media success story.
Yeah, it's definitely a lot different.
Awesome. Well, congratulations.
Thanks.
It's great.
Thank you.
It's not all doom and gloom, folks. It's some real green shoots. In terms of the, as Tyler Cowen would say, sort of the, what is it, the production process, the Noah Smith, how do you choose what to write about? Do you wake up in the morning and you already know?
I don't. I choose what not to write about.
Okay.
So I have a list that's like 40 pages long of things that I intend to write about, most of which will never get written about. And as I read the news, read other blogs, read Twitter, read whatever. Twitter's getting worse for this, but as I read all these things, I just generate ideas. I'm like, oh, I should comment on that. Oh, I should comment on that. I should talk about that. And so then I, you know, just put it down and in the doc, and then most of those things won't get written about. And then I was writing 7 things a week, 1 thing every day, and then I cut that back because people were unsubscribing. They said, can't keep up with the emails. And so they said 4 to 5 things a week is the sweet spot. So I aim for 4 to 5 things a week.
So, but the thinking behind that, so you see something online on Twitter, you see something in the news, maybe in the New York Times. What is your framework for thinking that's something I need to comment on and that's something I don't want to comment on?
Well, if it's something where I think I have some knowledge in the area or just some sort of thought that I don't see people saying, then I'll think this needs to be said, so I'll say it.
Yeah. So meaning, I would imagine economics is especially anything.
Yeah.
Policy as well, related policy.
Of course.
Okay.
Less about politics stuff. I actually did write about politics yesterday, but yeah, I wrote about that. Once in a while, I write about that. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
So.
Okay. You brought up. I brought up abundance, but I have a theory or sort of a working view of how this world that you are in works vis-a-vis the broader conversation, the broader national conversation. So let me say that, and then I want you to tell me whether you think that's true or not. There is this world in Substack, in Twitter, it's probably you, folks like Matt Iglesias, maybe Bern Hobart, you know, those folks, and a lot of this kind of wonky policy, economic, all these subjects get debated and filtered and distilled and then sort of adopted almost as common wisdom within that group. And then at some point, maybe a year or two later, they bubble up into something like abundance or YIMBYism. And all of a sudden, there's a book by an Atlantic writer and a New York Times writer and sort of classic center-left folks who are not paying attention to this stuff suddenly know about it. And it may actually now be a pillar of, you know, one of the parties in this country. Is that how you think about your influence?
Maybe, yes. I do think that the most important thing that I can do is to seed ideas into the discourse. And the best possible outcome for my ideas is that other people steal them without attribution. That sounds weird, but the reason is because if other people think that they thought of those ideas, they'll believe them more.
Does that happen?
All the time.
Is abundance an example of that?
No, okay. I didn't. No, abundance actually, Ezra Klein actually was the first to think of that. Not the first to think of that, he's the first person that I read thinking about it. Iglesias got it from him.
Yeah.
I got it from Iglesias. You know, I was late to this party and sort of sitting at the margins commenting on this. I have more economics knowledge than those guys, so I can bring some academic, literature to bear and just more general principles. And then there's people with more specific economic knowledge than me that I leverage. I'm somewhere in the chain, but Ezra Klein really is the first mover here.
Yeah.
And he should get the credit for this.
Great. Well, it seems like he is.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
Thompson.
It's great stuff that these guys are doing. I may have been the person who convinced them to co-author that book instead of each writing their own individual books, because it was or they may have decided to do that on their own, but I did harangue them to do that.
Got it.
So then those guys are both great. Derek Thompson got me into paid writing. So I was writing a blog for free, just for fun, as a hobby, and he said, why don't you come write for The Atlantic? So I was a occasional contributor to The Atlantic for years while I was a professor.
Yeah.
And then, so that's because of Derek. And he got me into that.
I did not know that.
Yeah.
That's great.
I owe it to him.
In terms of where you sit and your view of maybe the traditional media ecosystem, or let's just take the media ecosystem as a whole, is there anything about it that frustrates you that you think traditional media can do better?
Well, so I am on the opinion side of things, and I think that the entire way that traditional media conceives of the opinion section is fundamentally limiting and broken. I think that the old idea, the original idea was that you had news and it was just supposed to be the facts. People had this incredible adherence to like just the facts. I think that was laudable and that was good, but opinion began as an attempted slight deviation from that. Mm-hmm. Once in a while you let a person write what they actually thought about, their own personal opinion of something. But now, what you mostly get from opinion is not, opinion, not like, I think Russia sucks. That's mostly not what opinion is. It's mostly analysis. It's mostly a complex thing of, it's not simply like, here's what this person said, here's what happened in this market, here, et cetera. But it's also not like, here's why I think Radiohead is the greatest band of all time. Mm-hmm. But like.
Do you think that?
No.
Okay.
I don't. They're not. But many people of my generation did believe that, and so I use that as my standard example of like an opinion that well, that's just like your opinion, man. Because you had all these music hipsters who'd come up to you in the dorms or wherever in a coffee house and try to convince you that scientifically I can prove that Radiohead is the greatest band. Just look at this complex rhythm and look at how they mix in things from electronic. And I'm just like, well, how about the Ramones? Anyway, anyway, that aside. What the heck was I talking about?
Media analysis, opinion.
Yes, analysis. So analysis is really, a complex thing. You take the facts and you try to tell a story based on these facts. Mm-hmm. You synthesize them into something digestible. And the CIA does this. So the CIA has agents, most of whom are not, James Bond, most of whom are sitting there just Googling and asking AI things and just grabbing as much information as they can. And then you have the analyst, which the analyst reads all the reports and then, writes up a report or makes AI do it. I don't know what they do now. But then they write a report for their superiors and their superiors decide what to do. But they condense it. They condense and they narrate. And that's what I'm doing. I'm trying to figure out what the heck is going on. My own personal opinions of things are, I put that in there because you kind of have to put that in there, but it's really secondary to the analysis. And I don't think that news publications have only vaguely realized this. Yeah. They still have the word opinion, and they still, and people who work on the journalism side still have a almost pejorative view of the opinion section as people just saying Radiohead's the best band. That's what they kind of conceive of it as. Whereas in fact, those people are doing a sort of a downstream activity of facts. Those people are dealing with facts in a downstream way, and the newsrooms are producing the facts such as they are, and the analysts, who we call opinion writers, are synthesizing those facts into something that people can understand, which is why I think quote-unquote opinion, which I think we should rename analysis, is where all the growth is in media. Yeah. I think it's well known that people don't pay for journalism. People won't pay for it. This is a big problem because they ought to pay for it. Someone has to pay for it. But I think that in the end, the person who pays for that journalism will be me. I, the analyst, will pay, if I'm still working, it's not just AI, whatever. But I, the analyst, will pay the journalist, or will contribute to some sort of thing and pay the AP and Reuters, and more importantly, pay investigative journalists to find us facts to analyze, because if I don't have any facts to analyze, I don't have a job either. Yeah. And so, but my stuff is the stuff people want to read. They want to read the briefing. They want to read the analysis. They want to read with maybe a little color commentary, about Radiohead added in. They want, that's what they really want to read. They don't want to read the he said, she said, blow by blow. Mm-hmm. But that he said, she said, blow by blow is you need that. You absolutely need that. That's it's mining ore and then like making a car, right? Like I'm the final assembler of the car, but someone needs to go out and like mine the aluminum and stuff like that. That's a necessary activity, even if it's not as glamorous and it's a lower margin thing, and everybody wants to get out of that into the glamour, the glamour division of like look at my cool new car. But like, eventually, I think that people like me will be paying for journalism so that we have something to analyze and synthesize.
For what it's worth, I feel like the FT of the traditional publications I can think of walks that line the best in terms of analysis, where a lot of their opinion writers are actually not giving you opinions, they're doing more in-depth analysis.
That's right.
Yeah.
The FT is really good at this.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, The Economist is all analysis.
It's true.
And then, the New York Times and Washington Post have both played around with formats where they added more wonky analytical stuff. The Upshot blog was an example of this. And they would often call it blogs. They didn't know what to call it, but it was analysis is the right term, but they would call it blogs.
And Ezra Klein at the Washington Post as well. Yeah.
That's right.
It's always the British. They're running all of these publications now. They're always doing it right for some reason. I will move on. In terms of your presence on Twitter and X, you mentioned it. You are highly active. You are sometimes a little bit polarizing. What is your what is valuable to you about Twitter in terms of your work?
Well, very little anymore.
Okay.
I mostly choose to joke around.
Yeah.
I'll like the stuff I say on Twitter is typically not serious. Unfortunately, every once in a while someone takes it seriously and unsubscribes to my blog saying can't stand the tweets. And I'm like, well, yeah, but oh well. But it's like I'll just write silly stuff on Twitter. Or like semi-silly stuff, or like, ha ha ha, Russia, you got your bombers destroyed, ha ha ha. Like who cares? All kinds of stuff. But then that platform is becoming less and less useful. And it used to be the assignment desk for the entire media. Yep. What was said on Twitter was what was important in America. And that is no longer true. It is one platform among many. There's no magic sauce. Like stuff that happens on Twitter is not going to lead to a boycott of a company. It's not going to lead to an election. It's not going to cause riots. There's no real world stuff that Twitter does anymore. And so and it's not the cultural zeitgeist. Young people have abandoned the platform. It's a bunch of millennials and Gen Xers. It's Facebook for millennials.
Wow.
It's
that did cut deep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's chuggy as hell. Well, I say this as someone who's on it, but I'm spending a lot less time on it these days, and most of what I tweet now is just hitting the retweet button, scanning for a few minutes instead of thinking and writing my own tweets like I used to do.
Yeah.
And so I've noticed that the number of people, the people talking on it are just a shrinking circle of hardcore users concatenated by the algorithm, like gathered by the algorithm into a smaller and smaller group. So those people feel like there's still someone to talk to. But, it's shrinking, like one of those old episodes of Star Trek where like the universe was collapsing and like, whole decks of the Enterprise would like vanish into the mist and like,
We all remember. We all
remember, yeah. If you don't watch Star Trek, I can't help you.
Sorry. Last question. You're an economist, or you were trained as an economist, you worked as an economist. As an economist, what is going to happen with AI in terms of jobs?
We don't know. And anyone who pretends to know is pulling your leg, including Darren Acemoglu, the #1 economist in the world who just won a Nobel Prize, pretends that his models say that AI is going to kill a lot of jobs, when what he did was the following. He wrote down a very flexible model that had AI kill some jobs and create other new jobs. And then he turned off the part of the model where the new jobs were created and said, look, AI is going to kill jobs. I proved it. That's BS. And then he did some empirical papers showing that like certain kinds of automation technologies kill jobs, and then a whole bunch of other people followed it up and found that with better data that result reverses and jobs are created on net. So like Acemoglu has not been covering himself with glory here. I also wrote a 7,000-word highly negative review of his book, which you can read. Anyway, but the answer is that nobody knows, and there was this headline a few days ago, IBM fired all these people and replaced them with AI, and then had to hire back even more people to deal with the so I don't know whether that's a robust thing that will always happen. There's no law of the universe that says that jobs always get created, never destroyed. on net.
Yeah.
There's no law of the universe that says that. In fact, I believe that the internet on net probably destroyed jobs, although it created many, many jobs. Like digital media content manager is a job that didn't exist before, right? But then I think that the internet, by eliminating geographic redundancy, killed a ton of jobs that we don't think about. So you've read Death of a Salesman?
Yeah.
So that guy, I forget his name, Walter something?
I don't think it's Walter.
What's the guy in Death of a Salesman?
I don't know.
Joe Blow. He's going around.
Yeah,
he's driving around to people's houses selling them stuff.
Yeah.
Right? And so you don't need that guy anymore because you have the internet. And so like you can just have one guy just sitting there pressing the button and like sending out emails to sell to all the people. I think that eliminating that geographic redundancy with the internet killed a lot of jobs and reduced a lot of labor demand. I think there were a lot of things where the internet did that, where it wasn't necessarily technology can do something that it, like humans can't do it. It's like it just leverages one human who can do it across many locations. But that's suspicion based on reading a couple papers. May not be true. AI, I have no idea what that thing is going to do because it's not even the final form of that technology. Like it changes. O3 of ChatGPT is so much different than the previous ChatGPT. It's like it's a different technology. It works entirely differently. O3 can proofread my posts. The other ones couldn't proofread the post. It would miss the 2 typos I made and come up with 20 errors that didn't exist that would hallucinate. O3 will have the occasional hallucination and will occasionally miss something, but it will catch almost everything, and it's really good about this. It's just a different technology that wasn't there like 6 months ago, or a year ago maybe. And then so I don't know what AI is going to do. Nobody really knows. There is no human who can know this, and no AI that can know this, certainly. So I can't answer you this question, but I can say that for every technology in the past, whether on net it created or destroyed jobs, we still don't know. I can't tell you whether the power loom, which put all the master weavers out of work in Britain and made them really mad in the 1700s, I can't tell you whether the power loom on net contributed positively or negatively to labor demand, inequality, wages, jobs, anything. I cannot tell you that.
Yeah. But productivity certainly went up. So
Productivity
that's
went
generally
up.
a good thing.
Productivity went up.
Yeah.
That's right.
So you're saying we still have a shot?
We absolutely still have a shot.
Great.
I can't tell you what it's going to do because A, we don't even know what it's going to be yet. They're still innovating like mad. And B, the effects are like second, third, fourth order that ripple downstream through the entire economy. And so there's this famous example of electricity in factories, and economists know this example. Do I still have time to say this?
Like 30 seconds.
All right. So then with electricity, they used to drive factories with steam with one big crankshaft. And then when they first got electric motors, they ripped out the steam, put in an electric motor, and they were like, wait, this is less powerful. It sucks. My productivity went down. So they ripped them all out. Then 20 years later, some people realized that you could build a factory completely differently and use electricity to create a bunch of little independent workstations that could run at their own pace instead of all being connected to one big shaft. At that point, factories got like 5 times as productive as they had before. It touched off this giant productivity boom. And so sometimes the initial effect, A replaces B, that everyone thinks about AI in terms of replacing humans, but the sort of electrified factory of the future, reorganizing whole companies and whole production processes around AI is something that our smartest people and even with AI, can't imagine today. We can't imagine what that will be. It may be 20 years, 30 years, we don't know.
Yeah. So if you've enjoyed this conversation, I think you will enjoy Noah's block. Noah Smith, thank you very much.
Thank you.